We're speaking with composer and saxophonist Wil Swindler. And, man, you've got a lot of different things, a lot of irons on the fire. This here, the Elevenet, and then your good rattle, the five-piece, and then a quartet. Then all the other stuff you're doing on the side, Colorado Symphony, Peter Sommers, all these different things you're doing. How do you keep that all going, juggling it? Is there ever a day that you show up, oh, I thought it was the Elevenet today?
No, it does take a lot of organization for sure, and a lot of, paying attention to what's coming up and making sure you got this ready, making sure that that's ready and all that. But I mean, I've done this sort of in that way, like the freelance musical performance stuff since I was about 16, and I'm 46 now. So what's that, 30 years that I've been doing it? So it's like, it's just sort of life to me. Is like, we're doing this project, we're doing that project. I'm really fortunate that all the projects that I'm involved with are really high level things that I get to go and play with great musicians and play great music, and sometimes real high profile things and all that, which was really, really nice and cool. But it's it does take a lot of paying attention to and changing what you're thinking, what you're doing, where you're going.
Oh, sure. The mentality, playing with the symphony, on whatever, Mahler or whatever, compared to working with a bebop thing,
Very different. I never get to play Mahler though, but
well, who knows? Nobody does. Anyway, but the Elevenet, man, great band.
Thank you.
We just got to hear it. Have you been following here on the television? When you're writing a composition, does it just? I mean, I'm sure like there's times it comes to you, or you're playing something, you say, wait a minute, but do you have in mind the personnel you're writing?
Definitely.
So you're writing specifically like for this?
Yes. Like we've had this band, the Denver version of it since 2007. So we're coming up on almost 20 years together. And some of these people are the original members when I first started the band way back then. But I actually had a similar band in Austin, Texas, where I lived before, since 2004. And so I've been doing it for a really long time. And I learned early on that it's really, with a chamber group like this, where it's not like a big band. There's, we got 4 trumpets, we got 4 trombones, it's like there's 1 of each or 2 of each, real smaller. It's super important who you have as a player, how they play, what they're going to do. And then, once I kind of got the band more or less set, where it's like, these are the people that I want to have in the band. And most of them are also close friends, which is really, really nice. Then as I'm writing music, I am most definitely writing for this individual person. Like as I'm doing the composition, I start orchestrating it about, who's going to do what, how I'm going to voice this. I'm like, oh, I want not just this sound on that note, I want this person on that note. So the
arranging is happening at the same time as the composing.
Sometimes it's frequently I'll have the melody, the changes, and the form of the beginning of it done, and then I'll go back and start orchestrating, and then from there I'm arranging and composing sort of all together. But it kind of goes like that.
I was wondering about that. Like there were a couple of passages. Bass solo, the arco thing, and you guys are, covering underneath. I love those chords you guys are playing for him.
I wish I could say those were mine, but that's the Gil Evans arrangement.
Yeah,
that's one of the ones that we did that wasn't mine. That I transcribed that off the record from that one we played it. But that's Paul Chambers plays on that record. He plays the arco solo. So
transposing sometimes harder than doing your own.
It is, It's a lot of detail work. You're just basically sitting there like cleaning the grooves of something for a really, really long time. But it's worth it because it's great to bring that music back.
Oh, no doubt. I did think it sounded familiar. I just couldn't put my finger on it. I said, oh, stop doing that. Radio guys always do this thing. Like when you were doing those legato passages, I was like, kind of remind me of the Birth of the Cool a little bit.
We have the entire Birth of the Cool album in our book. Like we've done the entire record as a concert before. So it's a big part of this band.
Your sections, the engine room, first off, Ben Markley, these guys are great.
So great.
And then you've got that brass section. Now, it's an unusual brass section. Of course, it's an Elevenet. 2 trumpets, Gabe, and you got Kramer.
Darren.
Yep. Sorry, Darren. But French horn. 2 trumpets, trombone, French horn. Yep. That's pretty cool.
There's 2 bands that I kind of based this ensemble on. One is the Birth of the Cool, which has a horn in that. There's another band. It was the Marty Page Dectet, which is a lot less well known, right? It did a lot of stuff with Mel Torme, and I love Marty Page as an arranger. That also had horn. They had 2 trumpets. I think 3 saxophones, 1 trombone, tuba, and horn, and it was it was great. And so those are the kind of the two bands that I modeled it off of, and I changed it a little bit to make it more like my thing. But when I was in college way back in, right around, since 2001, I was a jazz arranging major, and so I was writing a lot of music, and my recital was writing a bunch of music, and I did stuff. I did one that was like Marty Page's band. I did one that was like Birth the Cool, and did all this stuff. And when I wrote some original music that was for that group that had horn in it.
Yeah.
And then we went to the first rehearsal. I was like, I'm finally going to hear what this sounds like when I write this, whatever. We sat down and we played it. And I very much in that moment said, this is what I want to do. Like, that's the band I want to write for. And here we are. That was 2001. So here we are 24 years later. And I'm still like, yes, this is the band I want to write for.
Marty doesn't get the kind of attention.
No, he doesn't.
Well, of course, you got Mel Torme out front. But
nobody remembers that it was Marty Page, doing all that, those great charts.
Well, so like your reed section, I'm loving this. You've got you and Peter. You're on alto and soprano. Mm-hmm. By the way, which one did you play first?
In the world?
Yeah.
Alto.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I play all the saxophones. Depending on which band I'm playing in, but alto's my main.
You play alto.
Yeah, that's my main horn for sure.
And Peter on the tenor.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have a bass clarinet and
boy,
a
do
flute.
I ever. Mm-hmm.
Man. Now, who were those two?
So the bass clarinetist is my wife.
Well, that's handy.
She's one of the best bass clarinetists in the state of Colorado. So I'm lucky that I can be like, hey, will you come be in my band? When I moved the band, or when we moved here from Austin to Denver, and I restarted the band, we used to have a baritone saxophone / bass clarinet. And I was like, you know what? I think I just want to ditch that and have April play it, and we'll just do bass clarinet. And it ended up being one of the big parts of the band.
There's something about, baritone kind of takes over.
Yeah, it can.
Of course, the way it's written, of course. And love flute, man. That's one of my secret loves. I'm a bassist, but when I got my teeth all fixed, I'm a pretty decent flute player too.
Flute's good.
It's a great sound. So let's talk about the downbeat thing.
Oh, sure.
That's always great about getting that kind of publicity, that kind of notoriety.
It is nice.
What did you think? Did you know what was happening when it?
No, I didn't.
Somebody called you and said, "Hey,
yeah."
Look at
there's two kind of important. Well, there are three things that happened. One's that we got a 4-star review, which is hard to do and really nice. Hard to get a review at all, but we got the top review, and then because of that, we were on the list for the best jazz albums of 2023, which I'm like, that's really nice. And then also, I from the playing on that record at the beginning of 2024, I was on the Critics Poll Rising Star list.
Yeah.
And it was just like every one of those things that happened was where I had no idea. I hadn't checked downbeat yet, and I'd get a text from somebody that says, "Hey man, congratulations." And I'm like, "Well, thanks. What happened?" And then they're like, "I didn't look at downbeat." I'm like, "No." Yeah. And then I get to be like, "Whoa, okay, seriously, that's great." So
that's awesome.
It's great. I've been doing this for so long. It's like I've always wanted to do this in my life. This is like what I do, how I spend my time. Like if I won the lottery, this is what I would do. Is write music and play jazz and do all these sorts of things. But so I don't do it like hoping to like be famous or like be in a magazine or get a review. However, it feels awesome to put in all that work and just have somebody like in a very public way just be like, nice job. And you're like, oh, that's really great. And a lot of people respond to it too, where it's like, I'm still the same musician and person I was before any of that happened, but then they found that out and all of a sudden they're like, really? And I'm like, yes. So it's nice. It helps the career, helps us get gigs. It helps everybody stay interested in the band and also just makes me feel like I'm somebody notice.
Well, we're hoping people notice. We're going to be on YouTube where people can see all the time. And I want to say thanks for coming down and bringing this great ensemble.
Thanks for having us. We always love to play. It's such a great space and great opportunity.
All right. Well, we've been talking with Wil Swindler, and he leading the Elevenet, and hope to hear more from you. What's next? You got another album in the works?
Yeah, the albums are. It's like sort of turning an aircraft carrier. It's the larger the ensemble, the more time it takes to get these things going. And so we're saving up. We did a show at Dazzle last summer that was all the music of Billie Eilish, and everybody's immediately like, "Are you going to make a record of that?" And I was like, "I'd like to, but we got to raise some funds first to get everything in place." So who knows? We're hoping to do something within the next few years that just takes a minute to get the money saved up.
I remember late 90s, Herbie Hancock did an album called The New Standard. Mm-hmm. And it was like, did some Kurt Cobain on there.
Right.
Prince, Sade. What do you think about that? Obviously, you did the Billie Eilish thing.
Yeah.
And I always felt like that's some very melodic stuff.
It is. It's really great.
So how do you see that in jazz? Is that more and more of a thing?
If it's interesting that, if you go back and look at, the 1950s, if we think of that as like the golden age of jazz, and people are playing what we now consider jazz standards, was very much the popular music of, the 20-year span around that time. And the jazz musicians basically are taking the popular music from various places, some just like from music people know, some from records, some from, musicals and things like that. Yeah, and cartoons, everything. And they're basically just like, oh, cool, they take that, make it into a jazz thing, and then off we go. Like, that's the same thing as what Herbie did. And like we've done with this band, we did a show that was all the music of Bjork and Regina Spektor, where it's the same thing, where it's like, this music lends itself well for this. I, as a jazz musician, enjoy this. I'm going to take it and make some art out of it. And it's just the same thing that they used to do. It's just we're doing this music instead of that music, And so it's sometimes easy to get focused on like jazz is the 1950s. It's like, no, we're still doing the same thing, just with different music, but we're all still influenced by all that. Obviously, those are all of our heroes and where the music came from. But, it's like whenever we do things like that, which I actually do a lot with this band, is something that I really enjoy, is taking, we have 2 full sets of the Beatles, where it's like, I've taken a bunch of Beatles music, and, some of it is easily done. Some of it I completely just like deconstruct it and build a new thing out of it and all this fun stuff. But yeah, it's like, that's just what we do. It's like, I love that music. I love jazz. I'm going to take it. And if it lends itself well, I'm not just randomly doing anything. If it lends itself well, then it's like, I want to make something out of this. We're going to do it. And so we do shows like that. And Billie Eilish was my current, like, wow, this music is amazing. And so I did a whole show of it.
I'm looking at her and I say, oh, green hair, huh? and then I hear her and I'm like, well, so what? Green hair.
Yeah, it's great.
Man, she's wonderful. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks again for coming down here and to spend a little time chatting with us. And socials, how can people look you up and find your stuff?
We do have a Facebook page. It's Wil Swindler's Elevenet. I've got all of our, most of our stuff up on my website, which is just wilswindler.com.
Okay.
We don't have an Elevenet Instagram, but I do have my own Instagram. That's just, it's at Wil Swindler, I think is what I have in there. But yeah, so those are the places that they can get us online.
Okay. Well.
I didn't say the next show that we're playing. I distracted myself. September 19th.
Okay.
2025 at Full Cycle in Boulder. And we don't know what we're playing yet, whether we're going to do a full theme show. We might do a Beatles show or something like that, or we might just do hey, we're playing our music show, but cool. That'll be fun.
I'm going to be there.
Cool. I hope so.
All right, man. Well, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yes.